come to Norway and do these writing camps with us. We'll fly you out and you can stay with us. And I was like, okay. So I went to Norway and I did these camps. And through that, I started making a lot of international writer friends. And so then I'd go from Norway, I'd go to Sweden, I'd go to London.
This podcast is about you, man, and your journey in music. And
oh my God, what a shit show. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, were you born and raised? Did I see you're from like Chicago area? Is that what I read?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from northern suburbs of Chicago. Are you from around there?
No, I'm actually from San Diego. And then I recently, 2 years ago, moved to Nashville.
Oh, nice. I love Nashville.
It's a beautiful city. We love it here.
Nashville's great. Yeah. No, I was there a couple of weeks ago and had a big dinner with a bunch of friends. And I got to spend more time out there.
It's great. It's supposed to snow. Like, I'm
really?
looking outside now. Yeah. I don't know, an hour ago, it said there was a 90% chance it was going to snow. And now it's like dropped down to about 30%.
Do you want snow or are you like, nah?
I don't, honestly, but I have 2 kids and they were like so amped. They're like, oh, all right, it's going to snow. And then I'm like, well, I'm watching the thing and it's kind of, the percentage is dropping drastically. So
how old are your kids?
I have a 6-year-old and then my stepson's 14.
Oh yeah. So both of those would be like, yes, let's freaking go.
Yeah. They want it to snow. So they're all like amped this morning when they were up. They're like, oh, it's snow at 4 or snow at 9. And then I just
But you guys don't get like full snowstorms down there, or do you?
No.
Because like where I'm from in Chicago, it was like
dumping snow.
Oh yeah, like the snowplow would come and push the thing against the back wall, and then the fort would be like like 2 kids high.
That's
so like you
crazy.
could really make some shit.
Yeah. So here, no, I mean it'll get a few inches maybe on like a good snow day, I guess. But
you can't do much with that other than like make snowballs and throw.
You can make snowballs. Like if you really, if a bad, I guess, snow, you could get a little snowman. But other than that, it's pretty weak. And then it melts typically within a day or 2. So
reasons not to raise kids in Nashville.
Well, we came from San Diego where they never saw snow.
Got it. So it's incremental. It's
stoked about it.
Exposure.
Yeah. They're stoked about it now. So, so Chicago, is it snowing there right now?
Probably. I don't know. I'm in Florida. I'm at my parents' house in Florida. Right
okay.
And then and I live in LA, so I haven't seen real snow in probably 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, my family originally from Cleveland. I wasn't born in Cleveland, but both my parents are from there, and they have no desire to leave San Diego. Like, I never want to deal with snow ever again.
Yeah, I'm kind of over it, but maybe with kids, like if I had a 6-year-old kid, I'd be excited to show them snow. But me personally, like I'm not going to go build a fort anymore. Well, maybe I would. I don't know.
Well, you're in LA, so you could drive like an hour and a half. You can get up to like Big Bear or Arrowhead or whatever, right? Fairly close. And
we have it all. We have it all in LA.
Yeah. You can go snowboarding one day and then surfing later the afternoon.
That's what they tell me. I've never met a person who's done that, but that's what they tell me you can do.
I had a roommate in college that would do that stuff. He was nuts. He would like get up at 6 or 5, probably more like 5, go surfing for an hour and then get home, get his stuff, and then drive up to Big Bear.
So here's my thought on that. Like, I just feel like if you're really thinking about like best use of time, wouldn't you just do one day in the snow and one day in the waves? Wouldn't that be like a more efficient use of the time?
I know, but a lot of guys, I mean, just being in San Diego, I wasn't a big surfer. I like the skateboard, but the kids that surfed that were hardcore about it, they would go surfing before school. Like they would wake up so early, get to the beach. They'd be surfing for an hour, 45 minutes, and then get out and drive.
The surfers I know are like that too. They're like up in the morning in the water.
That's not my personality, but
good for them.
Right.
I'll stay asleep.
Exactly.
We haven't gotten very far in my life story.
Sorry, we're just bullshitting.
I love
it. Well, what do you? Okay, so Chicago, was it like being born and raised there?
It was great. I started doing a lot of theater in Chicago. That's kind of where I started. That was my outlet. I found that I could do theater in Chicago and get up on a stage and perform, and that I really enjoyed. And then I started writing music with some friends. And then because we had access to Chicago, I ended up finding this producer in Chicago named Ira, who was the head of the music division of a company called Leo Burnett, which was an advertising agency. And he had this big studio. And so I would go, when I got in my teen years, I would drive downtown and go work with him. And so that's where I really started learning like the craft of being in a studio and the craft of songwriting and all these things that I now use today. Was really through kind of being taken under Ira's wing. And he brought this guy named Jeff Morrow, and Jeff became this amazing vocal coach to me and helped me understand like how to sing in a studio. And so there was like this little team that developed, and then we created this project that ended up getting ended up getting a deal with Disney through the music that I had done with them back when, this is like pre Justin Jesso. This is like, so then I ended up going out to LA for a year and pursuing music out there because I had this contract with Radio Disney. And I ended up touring America and opening for Corbin Bleu and Mitchell Musso and Jordan Sparks and Raven Simone. And I had this like little Disney career happening. And then it all fell apart for various circumstances that I don't get into. But I ended up like getting very depressed and spending a year out in LA with nothing. And then I ended up going to NYU and studied acting for 2 years, where I was also very depressed because I felt like a failure, and learned a lot about myself in the process, realized how much I missed music, and transferred into the Clive Davis Department of Recorded Music, started making music with a bunch of my friends that I made through that program. And then ended up interning at EMI Music Publishing. And that was kind of my first entry point into, oh, you can be a songwriter and you can make a living doing that. I never wanted to be a songwriter. I always wanted to be an artist. But what I saw was that a lot of the artists I respected, like Bruno Mars and John Legend and Julia Michaels, Meghan Trainor, they all started off as songwriters, writing songs for other people. So I said, okay. I was performing in little clubs and doing little gigs around New York. And, one night I'd get 300 people out, and then one night I'd get 3, so it was like, it wasn't like a sustainable thing for me as an artist in New York. And so I said, okay, when I graduated, I was the most kick-ass intern ever for my bosses at EMI. And when I graduated, EMI had splintered, and one of them had gone to Sony and one of them had gone to Warner. And I went to them and said, put me in sessions as a songwriter, because that's what they had access to. And they said, okay. I don't think they wanted to. I think they'd rather have me been like, can I have a job, or, something on the business side. But I said, no, I want to be on the creative side as a songwriter, always thinking like Julia Michaels, like John Legend, like Bruno Mars, this is a means to an end. I'm going to write hits for other people, and then I'll get taken seriously as an artist, and then I'll get my shot to sing my own songs. So anyway, they started putting me in sessions, and I started getting little cuts here and there, and that started generating some buzz for me. And I started on my career path as a songwriter, and I ended up moving to Los Angeles. I ended up, and the funny thing is, coming from New York, I could get sessions because people were like, oh, he's in from New York, he's only here for a short amount of time. The second I got to LA, no one cares, because everybody else has so much more going on than you do. So I got to LA, and I was like cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. I was just like tearing my hair out. I ended up connecting with this group from Norway, and they were like, come to Norway. We get subsidies from the government to put on these camps, these writing camps. Come to Norway and do these writing camps with us. We'll fly you out, and you can stay with us. And I was like, okay. So I went to Norway and I did these camps. And through that, I started making a lot of international writer friends. And so then I'd go from Norway, I'd go to Sweden, I'd go to London, I'd go and I'd find all these people to work with and write with. And I ended up getting my first big cut in Denmark at a writing camp they'd invited me to. It was Ricky Martin and Maluma. There's a song called Vente Pa Acá, and it got me nominated for a Latin Grammy. So
yeah, I didn't read that. That's insane. Only losing to like the biggest song like ever.
We lost to Despacito. It's fine. Like, we should lose to Despacito, but if it was like another year, I might be holding a Latin Grammy, but I'm not.
Oh yeah, well, you would be, right? I mean, that song is like, doesn't have the most besides from like Coco Melon, I think or Baby Shark, I think was the one that beat it out. It has like the most YouTube video streams ever. It's like upwards to like some X billion plays.
Right. So I was like, okay, that's fair. And then I came back to LA, and people, there was like a small change. People started taking me a little bit more seriously. So I would then get these meetings, and I'd go into these meetings at these labels, And this happened 3 different times at 3 different labels, where I'd go in, I'd play the music. They'd say, this is great. We love this song. We think you're great. We should just sign you and put this song out on you. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what you should do.
That's what you wanted.
That's what I've been trying to do for years. And every time, without fail, like 2 weeks later, I get a call from them saying, we actually just signed this Instagram kid with 1.8 million followers. We just want to buy the song off of you and put it on him because he has a platform and you don't. So keep writing, kid. And I was just like, and every time I was just like, and so the last time it happened, I said, okay, I hear the universe. I am going to focus on being a songwriter and not let my dream of being an artist die, but I'm going to put it on the back burner for a second and focus on writing the absolute best songs that I can. And that's what the universe is telling me I need to do. I'm getting these cuts. I'm getting into bigger rooms. I'm getting in with, you know, hit producers okay, I'm just going to write the best songs I can. And that was like April of like 2016 or something.
Okay.
Or 2017, I can't remember. And a couple weeks later, I walked into a studio with some buddies of mine and wrote Stargazing. And so we wrote it on a Monday, and then on Tuesday it was sent to Kygo, and then on Wednesday he sent us back a version, and on Friday it was a confirmed single, and it came out 2 months later. In those 2 months, the label tried to do what they've done to me the whole time, which is take me off the record and put somebody with a platform on. So it was the most nerve-wracking 2 months of my life, because we're basically waiting while the label sends this record to absolutely every male artist on the face of the earth that has a big name. And they're cutting guys on, like the label has scheduled sessions to cut big artists on the record. And so I won't tell you who, but they cut a bunch of people. And it was actually Kygo who stood up to the label and said, no, I like that voice. He wrote it. That's authentic. That's the music I'm putting out. So the reason that I stayed on the record is because Kygo and Miles, the manager, stood up for me, not knowing me at all, but just liked my voice on it and said, this is what we're doing. And that's how I stayed on the record.
Wow. Yeah. I've heard only great things about him, and how he really supports smaller artists and younger artists. I interviewed somebody recently, and I feel bad because I'm blanking, but basically he took this duo on the road, was just like, you guys are rad. I want to support what you're doing. And then now they have a name. Was it Two Friends? I can't remember. They might be signed. But some DJ duo like basically got similar. Like Kygo was stoked.
Is it Forrester?
Forrester, that's who it was.
Yeah, I love those dudes. Those are good dudes.
Yeah. Okay, that's exactly who it was. Because I just interviewed Forrester, so I knew and it was a similar. I felt like it was a similar situation where it wasn't like Kygo kind of was like these dudes are rad. I want to support them instead of like going, oh yeah, so and so has 1.20 1.8 million followers. Let's go with that good dude.
No, he's like, I connect to this, and so we're gonna do this, and it's great. For Forrester, those guys are fantastic dudes. I like Forrester a lot.
That's so cool. I love hearing those stories about people like that. I heard Ed Sheeran is a similar dude where he'll be like, oh, this person's rad. Like, I don't care. I'm not gonna screw around and dance through other people and just put them on. But I want to rewind here a bit. So you got into musical theater in Chicago as a kid. Like, was that something you were just interested in? Were you singing at a very early age? Like, did your family see something in you and were like, "Wow, we should really embrace this.
We should put him on the stage."
Not like that, but you know what I mean? Like being like, "Wow, like you really like that. Let's kind of see what he wants to do."
I mean, they're like, no. I think it's different today. I feel like kids today have the outlet to be artists. When I was growing up, like, I didn't know what Logic or, like GarageBand was. Like, I didn't know. Right. I didn't have a Mac. Like,
right. Not a lot of kids did, right?
Right. Like, I remember going over to my friend's house and like he had a little recorder of some sort. And like, I feel like if I were to go into a 6-year-old's room to like your son, like may have a little interface and a little microphone and a little guitar and like, or he may come in here and see you on your SM7B and be like, that's what I think it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. I just put the
I
fatter thing on there. I don't know why. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Know, and be like,
I come from radio, so I like the.
Well, you like the fatter thing. But you know what I mean? Like, it's accessible now. For me, it was like, that wasn't accessible. Like, I got really lucky that I met somebody at 15 or 16 and that my parents saw that I liked doing this. And even at 13, like, I remember, you know, there was a guy in a studio an hour and a half away in like, oh gosh, I can't even remember. Gosh, it's like Zurich Lake. It's not Lake Zurich, but it's like Zurich Hills or something. Anyway, very far away, tiny little suburb. I don't remember how I met this guy, but like when I was 13, 14, I was working with that guy, and my mom was driving me an hour and a half to go to Zurich Hills or wherever the place was. And like, this guy had this little studio and he had his setup, and like, now I feel like that's everywhere. And so, you know, theater was the outlet that was understood to be available, right? Oh, you like singing. Oh, you like performing. Oh, you like music. Cool. You should get on a stage. Here are the stages within a 30-mile radius of where we are. Like, maybe you should go try that then, you know, as opposed, which I loved and I did and I was happy about doing, but it wasn't like, I do wonder if it was like juxtaposed against, hey, you should go do this theater thing, or hey, you should, you know, figure out how to use this interface and make music with this 8-year-old producer that we just found. Like, if I would have, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know which way I would have gone. I probably would have been a mixture of both, because I always saw myself as a performer. That was always my first love, was performing. Songwriting came as a means to an end. I never wanted to be a songwriter. I wanted to be on stage singing my songs and telling my stories.
And at what point did you, you might've mentioned this, but we kind of, you know, went over it pretty quickly, but I'm just wondering, like, was there a point where you're like, I really want to start writing songs? Like, how did that even become something that you were even interested in?
I saw it as a means to an end. I went, okay, I'm going to write songs because I see the path. Right. And I understand that if I'm of service in this way with, I guess this, you know, call it talent or whatever, but it's not. I mean, I learned how to write songs. If I'm of service to the industry in this way with the connections that I have, that's how I'll continue to navigate upward. So that was always my thought, was like, I liked songwriting. I loved performing. But what's so funny is in music, I've never, and I now use this mantra throughout my entire life, because I'm also starting to write scripts and screenplays and different things. And I always thought that I was going to be an actor and all these, but nothing has ever come to me without writing it. Like, every good piece of career trajectory, mobility that I've ever had has come because I sat down and I wrote something down, whether that's been a song or, you know, or hopefully a script in the future. Like, no one's ever been like, here's a platform for you. It's like, I write something and then I give it to somebody and they're like, oh, cool, we'll put this on a platform. Which seems to be kind of the way the music industry is going these days, which is also a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I feel like you have to pave your own way.
Yeah.
Or make proof of something because of the numbers are all there. Right. There's not a lot of artist development. Like, oh, this guy's got a lot of going on, or this guy's got a very great talent. Let's put money behind.
Unless you've got, again, millions of followers on Instagram or TikTok, no one.
But that's showing. Yeah. That's showing that you have numbers, right?
Right. If you have an audience, all bets are off, because people will see dollar signs and they'll do whatever. But if you don't, and I certainly didn't, like, no one's turning around being like, let's develop this, you know. It's like what you got this. So okay, I guess that's a component that you need. Cool. Well, and even when I had the songs that people were like, these are great songs, let's put these out on you. Again, 2 weeks later, they're like, cool, here's half the pie, let's go find the other half the pie and we'll go make it work, you know. So I got very lucky in the positions that I found myself in, you know, with being championed by Kygo because he liked my voice on it better than he liked some of the other voices on it. But it all stemmed and continues to stem from, I had to write it. Mm-hmm. And so I take that philosophy forward with me, right? Where that's now, I will never not call myself a writer again, because that's the whole thing. The only way I'm ever going to be on that stage is if I write the thing that gets me on that stage.
Right. Yeah. With that, was there, you mentioned going to Clive Davis Institute.
Yeah.
You went for songwriting. You studied songwriting there.
So this is a whole journey. I didn't get accepted into the Clive Davis Department of Recording Music the first time. They took 4 kids as transfers, or 2 kids internally as transfers. One of them is my very good friend Gabe, and I didn't get in. So I said, basically, fuck you guys. I'm getting in.
Yeah,
so
I keep going for it.
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna just pretend that I'm in your program. And so I signed up for all the classes that you need to sign up for as a first year. And I went, and every single teacher was like, yeah, if in 2 weeks we have a spot, you can be in it. So I showed up for 2 weeks, and every single one of them were like, yeah, you can just watch from the back. It's fine. We'll pretend you're in this class. So I got registered in all these classes, and about 4 months in, I took the class of the chair who hadn't let me in, and 4 months in, he goes, okay, we made a mistake. What do you want? And I was like, put me in the program. He's like, okay, you don't have to reapply. But there was one thing that the reason I wasn't in the program is because he asked me a question on the Zoom, the secondary, callback Zoom to see who they were going to let in. Mm-hmm. The question was, you've been on the road with all these people from Disney. It seems like you have an inroad in the industry. This school is for people who do not have any inroads in the industry. And, you can learn by doing. You're already out there doing it. Why do you really want to come to our program? Because it seems like, since you already have a career out there and you're already doing it, that your parents just want you to go to college. And I was like, and at the time, he nailed it. This guy named Jeff Rabhan. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be pursuing my career outside of college, because that's what I thought I was going to do. That's where I thought I was going to be successful, and I wasn't. So I didn't have a good answer for him at the time. I was like, oh no, I really want to be here, and I really want to learn in a scholastic setting, which is bullshit. No one,
right. A lot of people just go to those schools to try to achieve what you already had, right? And you hear a lot of people going to Berkeley and then they drop out after a year and a half because they got a deal or
because they got a gig. Right. So, and a lot of my friends did that, and that's kind of the way it is in the industry, because that's the way it is. But anyway, he re-asked me the question 4 months later before he let me in. He said, okay, why do you want to join our program? Just answer the question, answer it honestly. And at that point, I'd started working with and getting to know the other kids in the program. And so the answer was camaraderie. I want to be around people who love this as much as I do. There are kids in here who are so talented, and I just want to work with them and learn with them and be a part of that community, because that's how I'm going to grow. And so he goes, okay, good answer. You're in. And so then I was at the Clive Davis department, and I did learn and grow with all of those people. And that kind of brings me to, if anybody asks me advice,
I'm going to ask you that at the end.
Well, I'm giving it to you now. You can chop it out however you want. If anybody asks me advice, I give them 2 pieces of advice. One is, get an internship in the music industry. Get your feet in on the business side. Get to know people on that side, and be the most kick-ass, invaluable intern you can possibly be. Because those are the people you're going to go back to and say, hey, I need a favor. Hey, I want to get a look here, or I want to get a look there. And they're the gatekeepers, and they're the ones that are going to let you in or not, depending on how good of a job you did and how much they believe. The second one is work with the people you know. There are all these amazing resources around you to build the thing that you want to build. And, in the music industry, it's always so easy to get caught up with, oh, if I had this manager, or I had that record label, or if I was able to write with that person, then I would have my career, because that level would do this for me. And it's like, I always had the best success working with the people right around me that I had access to. The first song that got me any traction, that got the guy that I interned for to say, okay, we can put you in sessions, was a song that I had done with my buddy Doug, who I went to college with, right? Great producer. He ended up going on to produce a bunch of that big Maggie Rogers record, Alaska, and a bunch of other things. But this is like pre all of that. Like he's just a dude that I go to school with. That's a producer. So we worked together one day and we made this thing. And I took it in a body of work to Jake at Warner, who's one of the guys I interned for, Jake Ottman, and he heard it and he liked it. So he's like, okay, cool. I see there's potential here. Let's put you in sessions. And that's how I got started. It was that confluence of things. So those are the two pieces of advice: is work with the people around you and get some access by being a kick-ass intern.
I love that. I'm curious, like at what, like when you started writing songs, you're like, okay, I need to write, like, this is what my, you said John Legend and Bruno Mars, these people that you looked up to as performers, you looked and saw, okay, they're songwriters prior. Like to begin, like, okay, I'm going to start writing songs. How, I mean, I always hear you got to write thousands of songs before you write that one good song. Like, what kept you going? Like, at what point was there a validation prior to like a successful cut that you were like, okay, I can see that I have a talent for this, so I should continue going? Or were you ever like, because it sounds like once you got out of the Disney thing, you were kind of like,
right,
like depressed and defeated. But like, how do you like be like, okay, I want this so much that I don't give a shit what happened prior?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's been ingrained in my head for years and years and years that if you can do anything else, you should do it. Like if you could be happy doing anything else, go do that, because this industry is awful. That applies to being an actor, that applies to being a musician, that applies to any creative field, right? I think if you can go be happy doing something else, go do it, because there's stability out there for you. There's jobs out there for you. There are things that you can do in this industry. There isn't. You really have to forge your own path and get very, very lucky. And it's not all based on this, hard work. It's hard work and luck and timing and skill and that, but it's a lot of the other things. It's not, you put in your hours at the factory and you get promoted.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, I kind of just had always had it ingrained in me that this is the only thing that would make me happy. So, or some shade of it, because being a songwriter, I realized for the rest of my life, for other people, isn't going to make me happy, or wouldn't make me happy. But I always knew somehow in my gut that it was a means to an end, to be a creative and to be able to make a living as a creative in the industry. And that eventually someone would turn around and say, okay, well, let's put you on the stage. So I don't know. How did I keep going? I just did, because I didn't think that I'd be happy doing anything else. And I gave myself a timeline, because my father kept asking for a timeline. He was like, okay, when are you going to do something else? I liked real estate. When are you going to get your real estate license? When are you going to go in? And I remember I had the thing up on my screen, like I was going to take it. I was going to take the real estate exam. And then I got Vente Pa' Acá, and I was like, oh, maybe I don't have to do that now. And not to say that real estate, like I could still go sell real estate, because I'm obsessed. I'm on Redfin every 2 minutes. My own addiction. But I don't know. It was one of these things. I just knew. I was just like, I'm not going to be happy doing anything else. I'm only going to be happy doing this. So this is what I'm going to do. And, look, if I got to an insurmountable place where it was like, I'm 30 years old and I want to, start thinking about other things, or whatever that arbitrary kind of age number I gave myself was, then I would need to start thinking differently. But at the time I was like, okay, let me duke it out a couple more years and see if I can make something.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And then once you start making it as an artist yourself, like, then I'm sure that just adds to it, because you still write songs for other people, right? You still have a lot of writing credits. Yeah, I do, and I do enjoy it. Not to say I don't enjoy it. I do enjoy it.
I do it far less frequently than I used to. It used to be 100% of my time was focused on writing for other people. Now, you know, maybe once or twice a month, you know, I'll go and I'll say, I don't really, because I write a lot, and sometimes things aren't for me. And so it's refreshing to not always be in my own head and to get into other people's heads.
Sure. Yeah. And you have the beauty of Zoom, and that's what I love about this kind of, is just the inside look at other people's lives.
Right? Yeah, this is my dog. This is Elvis. He needs to go pee, but he doesn't want to leave me because he's obsessed with me. This is your puppy boy.
Oh, I have a little pup like that. He's outside with my kids.
Yeah. Elvis is the best. He's wearing a diaper because my mom thinks he pees in the house, but he doesn't.
Oh, that's awesome. Is he a puppy or just?
No, he's like 13. He's like,
oh, okay.
He's like so old, but he acts like a puppy and looks like a puppy.
He does look like a puppy. That's so funny. Well, I want to talk to you about your new album. Well, let's hear.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, what's Elvis's perspective on it?
He loves it. He actually I wish he was musical. He's not. He's not a musical dog. I wish he responded to music, but he doesn't. Which is actually kind of surprising. You would think that they would, like they'd have some kind of connection to it, but he doesn't.
He doesn't.
No, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. We play music. He also doesn't respond to screams, and a lot of dogs do, but he doesn't respond. Like if I put something on the television, he has no interest, even if there's like a dog on the television.
He doesn't care.
No.
Huh.
And if I'm on Zoom, he doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like he'll not. If I'm away and he hears my voice over Zoom, it won't do anything for him.
That's funny.
I know. And most dogs, it does.
I've never tried the Zoom one with my dog, but the TV doesn't really. He just kind of lays down elsewhere, and music. He doesn't really care to.
You want to know why I know I love my dog more than you do? It's because I have a tattoo of him on my arm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The level of commitment that I have to my fur baby.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, okay, so tell me about this new album. I want to hear about it.
Yes. Okay,
double disc? Is that what I saw?
It's a double disc. Yeah, we're calling it a very, very long EP.
I was gonna say I haven't seen a double disc for a handful of years, since like 90. The 90s was a big deal to do the double disc.
You know, I just got to be like my 90s idols. No, so the body of work is called Finding the Opposite of Loneliness, and it's from one of the singles off the project called Miracle, where the lyric is, I've been trying to find the opposite of loneliness. There ain't a word for it, because there isn't a word for the opposite of loneliness. It's not togetherness. It's not happiness. There just isn't a word for it. And I always found that fascinating. So supposedly in Swedish, there is a word for it. And I forgot what it is. Like other languages have a word for it. Okay. So I said this when I was playing somewhere, I think it was Sweden. I was playing in Sweden. I say this on the shows. I'm like, you know, there is no word for it. So we're going to all find the opposite of loneliness here tonight together. And then after the show, somebody came up to me and said, good show, but there is a word for it in my language.
I was gonna say, the whole crowd just yells it out at the same time. Right. You're like, damn, okay, I guess I was wrong.
Right, I guess I was wrong. I need to change everything about what I do. But so this body of work chronicles my journey with depression and my journey with trying to find the opposite of loneliness. So the first half are songs where I haven't found it. You know, songs like Lifeline, which are about, you know, needing to be thrown a lifeline in order to get through a day. Songs like Drink Alone, which is dealing with breaking up with someone and knowing that you should go out and, you know, dance with somebody and go have a good time, but you can't. So you sit in your house and you drink alone, which is what I usually do whenever I'm going through a breakup. And then the second half is about finding the opposite of loneliness and being on that journey. So the first transition song is Bigger Than, which to me actually kind of sums up the whole experience. Bigger Than is about being bigger than your fears and being a good person, and that it's not what you have in life, it's what you do for others. And so that sentiment is the start of being on the journey of finding meaning, finding the opposite of loneliness for you, Um, and that's what the second half is all about. So it starts with that. And I should have pulled it up so I had a reference of like what the actual order of the songs were. You would think I would know.
Yeah. Miracle, 400 trillion.
Right.
And okay.
Right. So
that's the second half, at least.
So Miracle is about finding that person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Although in my case, the music video is about my dog and the relationship that I have with him and how he gets me through depression and anxiety. And 400 trillion is about how there's a 1 in 400 trillion chance that we're actually alive today, that the sperm actually meets the egg, and that we're actually the unique individual on the earth that we are.
Wow, that's fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a 1 in 400 trillion chance that you exist today. And therefore, those odds are so small that how crazy is it how small those odds are, and how much smaller the odds are that you'll actually find somebody that you love, that you'll find love in your life. So when you find love, you have to cherish it. You have to tell the people that you love them. So that's what that's about. And that song in particular has really resonated with people. I have this folder on my phone. Whenever somebody sends me a message where they're inspired by one of the songs, I kind of just catalog it and show you. But that's kind of the most incredible, amazing thing about what I do and why I do what I do, is because I love when people are inspired or affected by my music. What are you doing? So I wanted to read you this story, actually.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
So there's this girl, and she's a mom, and she has a son who has some learning disabilities. And they came across the song 400 trillion. She wrote this to me. And every time I read this, I'm like reminded why I do what I do. So she goes, I could fill a book with more examples of how your music has helped my son Pete and therefore our whole family, but I'll just tell you the most meaningful way now. What I didn't say before, because it's almost unbearable to write, is that Pete hadn't been able to tell me he loved me in all his 10 years, even though he's very verbal. Just understanding and verbally expressing his own emotions is really hard for him. I had accepted the fact that saying I love you to me was just something he wasn't able to do, and I'd come to peace with it because I knew I could feel his love, and he shows it in other ways. Until a few months ago when 400 trillion came out. After we figured out 400 trillion helped with anxiety, it became his go-to song. He loves numbers, so I think he was drawn in by the title and cover, and then just really connected with the music and lyrics from there. A few months ago, we were listening, and he asked me what I thought the song was about. I told him that someone figured out that there's a 1 in 400 trillion chance that we are born the unique individual that we are. And because that chance is so tiny, it's really special that we are exactly who we are. And we should celebrate that dancing on the rooftops. This is a message I've tried to talk to him about since his diagnosis of autism at age 2. He doesn't yet know he is autistic. I want him to understand himself first and really understand that everyone is a unique individual and that that's a good thing, before I explain to him that there's a name for how his brain is wired a bit differently and why he may feel like he has more challenges than the other kids his age. He thus far has not internalized this difference, or at least has not said anything about it, but this message is really crucial for a neurodivergent kid to understand. Well, after I explained my interpretation of 400 trillion, he looked up at me and just said, I love you, mommy. I was absolutely floored. Tears are streaming down my face as I write this now because he tells me he loves me all the time, and I will never take it for granted because I waited a whole decade to hear that. Justin, I really can't thank you enough for that. And thank you for providing a way for me to start to explain my son, his neurodiversity within the context of a song he deeply connects.
Wow, that's really beautiful. My 6-year-old son has autism, and right when you started reading, like about a third of the way in, I was like relating directly to what this woman was saying, and I was gonna say I feel like he's definitely on the spectrum, and then she said it like within towards the end there. That's well, I need to play that for my son. I mean, he says I love you, but he's also I mean, it's such a big spectrum.
It's a wide spectrum, right?
Yeah, where people are at, but that a lot of what that woman said was like what we were dealing with growing up when he was really young.
Yeah.
trying to figure out what, he's so smart and he remembers all these things and he can recognize, like, it sounds like he's really good with numbers and like the same with my son, like he can look at something and just know like the math behind it. I'm like, you're 6 and you're doing
Yeah, that's
addition and
crazy.
multiplication. Like he just knows the answers
Yeah.
without having, like, it's just how his brain is wired. And like he's got this photographic memory, like where if you go, if you can't remember where something is, he could go find it for you. Oh yeah, it's right. Without even really recognizing what it was. But wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I'm sure, like, you hear artists talk about, hearing those things and how that's the most meaningful thing to, how people react. And it's like the fact that you save those things and you read that, like, that just shows like the type of person you are, man. And that means a lot to me, just hearing that. That's really, really, really amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know your situation. And, I just, every time I read that, I cry because that's really the dream. I mean, I have all these huge dreams of pulling double duty on SNL and doing all these things, but when
Right.
you read something like that,
Sure.
like, well, if I don't ever get to that level, at least I've affected positive change,
Mhm.
and that's really cool and that's really awesome. And yeah, and I love getting messages like that, and I have a bunch. And especially when we're so concerned with numbers in the industry, right? So it's this idea that like that song 400 trillion did not do even close to what I wanted it to do, right? Like performance wise.
Mhm.
And you're kind of kicking yourself being like, oh man, people aren't listening. And at least I do, because I always want so much more.
Well, yeah,
Which is
yeah,
my
I
own
mean,
problem and my own journey.
that's just
But
human nature, right?
right, so I look at it and I go, okay, well, it didn't do as well as I wanted it to do, or it didn't do as well as I expected it to do. And you get so down on yourself for those things, and then you read a message like this, and you're like, oh, well, maybe it did do what it was supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like maybe it didn't really need to find a mass audience; it just needed to find this woman and her son. And that then kind of checks the box for me. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that song did what it was supposed to do. Great.
Right.
Glad I put that one out.
Yeah, I wonder if that's even more fulfilling than if it did, you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
10 million streams or whatever it was. I don't even know how many it has. I didn't look, but like, yeah, like that, just like those messages, I'm sure can just never get old, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That. Would you say, like, when you wrote that song, did you know did it feel that, like, the importance, like obviously you didn't know that you were going to get a message from this person like that, but like, did you know it was something special when you wrote it, or was it just a song
um,
that?
I think we knew it was special when I wrote it with some friends, funnily enough, at my parents' house in Florida. Um, and I think we all knew it was special when we wrote it, but we didn't know how special. And we didn't know that it would affect people in the way that it has. I think we were just kind of writing. I mean, my buddy found the concept and he was like, there's a 1 in 400 trillion. It was originally, I think the number was wrong. It was 1 4400 trillion. It's like 1 in 4400 trillion chance that we're actually alive. We were like, that could be a cool song. Why don't we write that? And
Mhm.
then it became, well, we're alive, which is insane. And so what's even more insane is us being able to find love in our life, because that number, that idea is is even more rare, right? So then it became the
Sure.
story. I'm not going to leave without you, right? And it funnily enough, I mean, I don't think we really meant it to resonate in the way that it did with a mother and her son.
Right.
But it does, right? I mean, it resonates across the board of, you know, it's this very introspective song. I mean, I used to zone out when I was driving and I think about me dying and what I would leave behind, but that all changed when you arrived. Since I met you, I'm not taking a single thing for granted. I know just what I have and I will hold on while I have it. It's like that's the second verse. And that
Uh-huh.
is such a, like, it screams kids to me when I
Mhm.
listen
Mhm.
back. I go
Right.
like, oh my God, well, of course. And of course, when we wrote it, I think we wanted it to be universally applicable to love, right?
Right.
So we were just writing it going, okay, these are the words that we feel either to our significant others or to our families or to, whatever it is. And it worked. And it all made sense to us at the time. But, when you step back and really listen to the lyrics and then put it in the context of someone's specific story, you go, holy shit. That's gotta be what it feels like to have a kid. You showed up and then I was like a changed man.
Right.
I don't have kids, so I don't know that.
Yeah. And it is,
but-
it's, well, I thought the same thing when I didn't have kids. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like you have like your whole world changes. Obviously it changes, but like
right.
it does. Like, I mean, you have this now connection to this person, like this, unconditional love for this person that just doesn't, you can't even explain it. It's just so
right.
It's weird. Like to me, it seems weird. It's like you get it, but you don't get it, and it's like how it all comes about. But that's such an amazing story. I love that. I think it's really awesome that you did a double disc EP. It's just such a rare thing. I think that's so cool as well.
I had more to say than that fit on the normal, because we didn't want to call it an album for various reasons, but I had more to say than just an EP. So it was like, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, we'll make it kind of 2 EPs and we'll link them together.
I love it. That's so cool. And are you doing any touring to support it, or like, I mean, obviously it's the holiday season. I don't know if
we planned our touring weirdly. I toured to support it this past year. So I had a tour this summer in Europe. This coming year, we're setting some dates for the US. So that's hopefully going to be, set and ready to go before the end of the year. And then we'll announce probably early next. And then I'll probably do a similar routing to what I did this summer in Europe next summer. I'm always off and on with the Kygo crew. So I'm touring a lot with them.
That's cool.
Which is great. And so I'll do some of that, and I'll do some of my own shows and kind of dovetail it all together. So yeah, that's the plan. There's a lot already on the books for next year, but we haven't yet to announce solo dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever play Nashville?
I'd love to play Nashville. I have not yet played Nashville myself.
Okay. It is.
So maybe I have to.
Yeah, you do. It's interesting, just a town, because I feel like it gets kind of missed in the mix with some of the artists that I would like to see when it comes to like EDM. I mean, it's getting bigger. It's getting better, I should say. But
I feel like a lot of country artists obviously are,
Oh yeah, country does well. Even a lot of the now, like the pop punk emo stuff is coming through here quite a bit.
Coming to Nashville, yeah.
Yeah, but like the bigger artists, especially in the EDM, electronic, more like in that world, or even like more of the singer-songwriters that's not as much like straight folky stuff. I feel like it hasn't been.
They don't come through as much.
Not as much in this, at least in the smaller rooms or the 2,000 seaters. I feel like it's like chain smokers, you know what I mean? Like it'll be like a huge show, or it'll be
oh god,
yeah, you know what I mean? Like I feel like Kygo would be a great example. I mean, he would probably come here, you know what I mean, playing some big arena. But like, I would love to see you like here. I think that'd be such a rad show.
Thanks. I'll try to make it happen. It would be fun.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time today, Justin. Thank you so much for doing this, especially after getting a booster and all that other stuff. And I'm sure
it's
you're
good.
exhausted.
This like got me. I feel like if I wasn't here, I would just be in bed, like feeling sorry for myself. So it's better to like be out and not feel sorry for myself.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah,
it means a lot to me. I know you already answered my last question about advice to aspiring artists. I don't know if you want to throw any else in there, but other than that, I'm good.
So I did add one to my like advice column, but I forgot what it was. I said it the other day. It was work with people, get an internship and be the most kick-ass intern ever. Like I struggle pretty significantly with mental health, and it's annoying, and it's really it's annoying. And I think that I'm a bit of a workaholic, which is great. And I think you have to be a bit of a workaholic in order to really, without like massive luck, get where you're going in the industry. But like, I need to not be afraid, and people need to not be afraid to like take some time and like it's going to be okay. You know, it is still art. We do still need to take some time to be inspired and not burn out and take a little break. So that's kind of my third piece of advice is, you know, work your ass off, but like, it's okay. We don't have to be competing with everybody around us. Like, run your race, take your break if you need it.